Welcome to Pad Stats Breaking News. We have the blockbuster move of the 2020-2021 offseason. It's happened today around 12:40 p.m. I believe it was Jeff Passan who was the first to report that the New York Mets were close to acquiring Francisco Lindor from the Cleveland Indians along with Carrasco in exchange for Ahmed Rosario, Andres Gimenez, Isaiah Green, and Josh Wolf, the last two, they're prospects in the Mets organization. Those names were reported over the next 20 to 30 minutes, and within 20 to 30 minutes, the deal became official. As a Mets fan, my first reaction to this was, Francisco Lindor, he is an absolutely fantastic player, and I'm very happy he's going to be on the Mets. I'll obviously explain why later in the video. But also, B, I was completely shocked because this came out of nowhere. There were no inklings that the Mets were near a deal before this. Later on in the press conference, we knew that this had been going on. Talks had been going on for at least a couple weeks. But as from the public, we had no idea, literally until basically it became official. It was kind of crazy how fast this all happened. So anyway, I'll give you the trade details. Like I said, Francisco Lindor and starting pitcher Carlos Carrasco are on their way to the Mets in exchange for shortstop Ahmed Rosario and shortstop Andres Gimenez, as well as two minor leaguers, one outfielder Isaiah Green, and starting pitching prospect Josh Wolf. So I'll start with obviously the big piece in the trade, Lindor, who is just an outstanding baseball player, not only because he is a top 5 shortstop. Coincidentally, I was going to release my top 5 shortstops after my next video. I'll give you a pretty big spoiler alert. He was going to be my number 1, still is obviously. Great offensively. He'll hit 30 home runs, could drive in 100 runs. Steals bases, great on the base paths. His defense, he is not only a Gold Glove player, a Platinum Glove player at that. Something that the Mets have lacked in, especially at shortstop, in what seems like forever, potentially. Of all time, the Mets have never had a Platinum Glove shortstop that consistently starts, which is just crazy. Aside from that, he is off the field. He is just a popular player, someone that you build your franchise around, someone that your franchise is known for. Something that the Mets also do not tend to have that often. A top 10 player in the game that is not only a great baseball player, but is also a great player off the field, not only because he is a pretty good clubhouse guy, just because he draws the attention. He'll get the casual fan watching your team, something that the Mets need, and Steve Cohen, he'll bring that factor in. First big move he's ever made since owning the team. And he'll also thrive in the big market. I know I'm not worried that he will get on pressure because it's the big market. He's made for the spotlight, and he will do just fine here. As for the other big piece in the trade, Carlos Carrasco, who I think when people thought of Francisco Lindor being on the trade market for the Mets potentially, they didn't really think of who else could be potentially incorporated in the trade. Carlos Carrasco was incorporated in this trade, and as a Mets fan, I am very happy that this guy was incorporated because he is a solid middle-of-the-rotation starter who will slot right into a rotation that needs help right now. They don't exactly have 5 starters right now, and he will at least make it possible for them to have a starting rotation on opening day. He is an all-star caliber pitcher. He, in fact, battled cancer and came back from battling cancer with a pretty good 2020 season with an ERA, I believe, under 3. Eventually in the 2s, I believe, high 2s, I think. So, he beat cancer and came back. That in of itself is remarkable. And the fact that he is a very good pitcher makes it just the cherry on top. As for what the Mets gave up, they gave up a couple of shortstops who would currently be on the team. I'll start with Ahmed Rosario, who, to put it in just long story short, he's been disappointing as the Mets. He was supposed to be a top prospect, kind of like Lindor, back in 2017, and it just has not panned out yet for the Mets. But with that being said, he is still young. He was a top prospect at one point. I believe that his 2019 second half is going to be a ceiling, and if he can reach that level, that is not a bad player. He is certainly not a Gold Glove defensively. he got a little bit better this year. With that being said, still young, still has room to improve. And as for the hitting, like the 2019 second half, he hit for a high average with some power. I think that is his ceiling. The thing is that he's been very inconsistent, but then he is still young and still can be improved. As for Andres Gimenez, he came up in 2020. Not many Mets fans expected him to, first of all, be on the team, and second of all, perform the way he did. He had always been known as a defensive first shortstop, and he did show that he is spectacular with the glove this year. But he also showed that there is some offense to him. With some power, the power will also come later in his career. But as for the Indians, he will be their shortstop, rather than Rosario, who I think they'll probably use more versatile. He'll be their shortstop, and while obviously a major downgrade from Lindor, still has the opportunity to become an above-average shortstop. As for the two prospects the Mets gave up, Isaiah Green, who was the 2020 second-round pick for the Mets, who is an outfield prospect. Again, prospects, they're kind of hard to judge this early in their career. Same with the pitching prospect, Josh Wolf, who was their 2019 second-round pick. It's hard to know what they will be, but for the Indians, who, let's just be honest, we knew Lindor was going to be traded, and this is actually very similar to the Mookie Betts trade, where the Mets, obviously would be in this case the Dodgers, acquiring the superstar for some prospects that you don't really think add up to the superstar, just as of yet, but you never know what could happen with them. So as for the Mets, for 2021, they have to win the trade, because basically all they traded away was prospects and a couple shortstops who won't exactly impact them the way Lindor would. As for beyond 2021, you would have to think that the Mets are going to extend Lindor at some point. It might not be next week, but it could be definitely before opening day, like it was for Mookie Betts and the Dodgers. And if not that, in some point during the season, I'm particularly not worried that they won't extend Lindor. You saw their press conference today, Sandy Alderson, he said he was optimistic about it. He didn't really have any conversations yet, but they apparently will, and rightfully so. I mean, this is a guy you want to have on your team for a very long time, and the Mets easily have the opportunity to do that. And as for the trade of what the Mets gave up for Lindor, I personally think it was a very good deal in terms of the Mets, not only for getting Lindor, but also getting Carrasco. They gave up their current shortstop, which kind of makes sense. The Dodgers did that. They gave up Alex Verdugo for Mookie Betts. And for what they didn't give up, actually I think is kind of important. You saw earlier in the offseason, there were rumblings about potentially you'd have to give up a Jeff McNeil or a Dominic Smith or even a Pete Alonso. And I am particularly so pumped that they did not have to give up those players. Even a Brandon Nimmo or J.D. Davis, they didn't even get traded, which I think is a huge win for the Mets. One final thing is what it means for the future in terms of this offseason for the Mets. I still believe that they have the chance to make a free agent signing, particularly George Springer. I'm starting to think that Trevor Bauer is not going to happen for the Mets, and that is okay. They can build some more depth otherwise. But as for Springer, he would just fit perfectly in the center field for the Mets, move Nimmo over to left field, assuming there's a DH, Smith and Alonso would split time there. And I just think they still have the flexibility to make a free agent signing. The luxury tax, they are near it, but not there yet. That one free agent could push them near it, but as Sandy Alderson said today, they are not using that as a cap, and they could go over it if they had to. So that is all for the Pat Stats breaking news today. The bottom line for me as a Mets fan is I am happy for this trade. I am pumped that Francisco Lindor is on the Mets. Who thought this a year ago today that Francisco Lindor would be on the Mets? All right, we're gonna go now. This crazy day for Mets fans is it's kind of surreal that Lindor is on the Mets. Thank you for watching. If you want to watch some more Pat Stats, this is my most recent upload, and this is a video YouTube recommends you watch. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.